So get a hold of the authority having jurisdiction. The electrical inspector, sit with him. Get to understand what his requirements are, what he wants to see. Quality control has to do with maintenance, service, and new installations especially. If you're an operations manager or if you're the lead installer, you need to make sure that that installation is done correctly. So a $500 maintenance contract can turn into a $50,000 sale either immediately or down the road. Welcome to the Standby Generator Podcast, brought to you by Power Alliance. I'm your host, Jim Swetman. Together we will dive into the world of the standby power business, offering expert insights, industry trends, and actionable strategies to help you grow and scale your generator business. Whether you're looking to optimize your operations, increase profitability, or stay ahead of the curve, this podcast is your go-to resource. So grab a seat and let's power up your business for success. Hi, this is Jim Swetman, and thanks again for joining me for this week's Standby Generator Podcast. Kind of a mix of things that I want to talk about here today. Again, chatting with standby power dealers throughout the country. Get a lot of questions in here, so I've got kind of a mix of things that I want to talk about, from code compliance to inventory management, referral, quality control. But I think in the next 10 or 12 minutes, you're going to find this very informative. So if you're a standby power dealer out there, whether residential or commercial, I think you're going to find this informational. So let's get started here. Let's talk about code compliance, about standby power generators. If you own a standby generator dealer, if you're an operations manager, if you're in sales, you need to know the basics about the NEC code and NFPA 110. It doesn't take that long to figure out what the code requirements are for standby generators, especially if you're doing it for a living, if you're just doing it for a living. Let's talk about the basics here and keep it simple. Really, Article 445 in the NEC code has to do with generators under general requirements. So the basics of installing a standby generator in Article 445. Specifically, what I want to talk about is Article 700, which is life health, which is like hospitals. Article 701, which is kind of legally required generators. And optional standby generators is Article 702. So if you're in the residential marketplace, there's two articles in the NEC code that you really want to train your people and you need to understand. And also, when you're sitting there with a customer and he's asking them or asking with a potential customer about, well, what kind of codes do you follow? You want to be able to say, without even looking down, is that you follow Article 445 and Article 702 for optional standby generators, permanently installed. So that's what you want to do. Go online, look at some videos, and probably the best thing to do if you're going to be installing standby generators for a living is go ahead and call your local inspector, the local electrical inspector that's going to be coming and inspecting your installation. Sit down with him. Ask him what his requirements are, because you don't want to do a generator installation and the electrical inspector shows up in the afternoon and you don't have something grounded or bonded correctly. You got to come back and you look really stupid in front of the customer. So get a hold of the authority having jurisdiction, the electrical inspector, sit with him, get to understand what his requirements are, what he wants to see for an electrical installation of your standby generator. But if you're in the residential world, it's Article 702. If you're in the commercial industrial world, it's Article 700 and Article 701. Those are the ones that you want to be referring to, obviously including Chapter 3, which has to do with conductors and wireways and things like that. But you can get into this thing pretty heavy. But that is where you want to concentrate your efforts. And it's not too difficult if you do it for a living and you understand and you listen to some of the advice there. Let's talk about, again, we're kind of all over the place here, but I wanted to answer some questions I have here about service contracts. And this probably has to do with more of like commercial installations. If you get a service contract for a commercial customer, one of the things that I found that was very successful in owning a standby dealership, including the commercial power side of things, is if you have an opportunity to do for these commercial generators for a potential customer, is do a no-cost installation compliance report of the existing generator that's already sitting there. If it's a commercial generator, it's probably been there for years and years and years. And it probably looks like hell. It's probably old. But what you do is you, at no cost to that potential customer, is you do a report on the existing condition of that generator. And then show them of what you can do for maintenance and, of course, give him pricing. And then hopefully with that, you'll go ahead and have a maintenance customer. Now, that $500 maintenance contract that you just got, guess what? Now you've got the confidence of that customer. You get a hold of them once a year. You've already talked to them about what they need to do. Well, eventually that generator is going to break, and eventually that generator is going to break down and need to be replaced. And guess what? You're right there for that. Whether it's Article 701, Article 700, the commercial side of things, life safety, you're going to be putting in, hopefully, a brand new generator for them just from having a maintenance contract. Offer to do a maintenance compliance report for no cost. Hopefully, you'll gain their trust, go in there, do a nice job doing maintenance, and then you've got that maintenance customer. So a $500 maintenance contract can turn into a $50,000 sale either immediately or down the road. This episode of the Standby Generator Podcast is proudly presented by Power Alliance, the only mastermind community built specifically for standby generator dealers. At Power Alliance, we believe growth happens faster when you're connected. That's why we bring together like-minded dealers across the country to share real-world insights, solve challenges, and accelerate business success together. From streamlining operations to scaling your service division, Power Alliance gives you the tools, support, and community to take your business to the next level. Learn more and join the movement at www.poweralliance.com. I get another question too about inventory management. How much inventory should I have, whether it's parts or whether it's generators or transfer switches or portable generators if I have them in stock? And really what I have found is just looking back at what you've done over the last 3 to 5 years and averaging it out. Obviously, you don't want to have too little, because then when a storm comes or there's a big need or your competitor goes out of business, you don't want to have to wait 6, 8, 12 weeks for a standby generator to come, depending on the backlog that the manufacturer has or on the transfer switches that has. But then you don't want to have too much, because then you're sitting on inventory, you're tying up your cash. And then, if you're funding that through different sources, you don't want to have to pay interest rate on that if you don't sell it. So it really is kind of a balancing act. I always like to have a little bit more than I think that I need, is because the old saying that I learned many, many, many years ago as an electrician in the field is I'd rather be looking at it than looking for it. So I'd rather be looking at inventory than looking for it. Same thing with parts. Parts are pretty cheap to have. You want to have those air boxes. You want to have the starter motors. You want to have anything, the controllers. And that's all part of being efficient in your installations, is to have those parts on that van. So when your tech goes out there, opens the hood, sees a starter motor laying on the side and it's not working, a controller that's bad, you've got your parts list right there. The customer agrees to the replacement of that part. They sign the work order right there. You walk to your van, you go ahead and you put the part in, and you just made yourself $300, $400, or $500 depending on what you're installing. The vans, don't be shy to invest in parts and having them on your van, but make sure they're also inventoried properly, because a lot of the techs are what I call hoarders out there, and they like to put everything in their vans, but they have no idea where they are. So make sure that once a month or once a quarter, we used to have van cleanout day. We used to have the guys back in their vans, and we used to empty everything out of their vans, and we used to take inventory of what they needed and put everything back in. And it's amazing how efficient you can get. Plus, when you're at a customer site and you back up the van and open up those back doors, and if it's a mess, the customer is going to wonder about what he's paying for. Is he going to do the same thing to my generator as the back of his van? So being orderly, understanding what's there is all part of the efficiencies and all part of execution excellence when it comes to things like that. So how much inventory should I have? Look back at your records. Always have a little bit more. Rather be looking at it than looking for it. And that's really the answers that I have for that. Referral programs. Again, I get this back into referrals. How do referrals work? Well, you know what? One of the things that we did is the referral program, not only when you do sales and you're asking the customer when you're done with the installation, not before, but when you're done with the installation, if they would be willing to give a referral, and you may give that residential customer, after you to do the new installation, it may offer them $100 or $50 or a free maintenance visit or something like that if they do turn in to give their name and it ends up turning into an installation. You can go ahead and do that. But another great referral program is with your local electrician. One of the things that we did in the dealership that I used to own is we had a great relationship with multiple electricians in town, whether they were just the 1 or 2 man shops or they are 10 or 12. But what we did is when they got a call to do an installation, a lot of just electrical contractors don't do generator installations, because you as a generator dealer know it really takes a lot to be a generator installer, and 100 steps it takes to do an install and maintenance. And a lot of electricians don't want to do maintenance on the generators. But what you do is you get with them and you say, look, if you do get the phone call, Joe's Electric or Joe, we would love to help you out, assist and support you with that generator installation. So don't say no to that potential customer, because he may not call you back to do any kind of electrical work. So you want to train him to say yes, and that you can be the person behind the scenes to go ahead and do that install. Whether he wants to do the electrical work, which is perfectly fine, and you go ahead and supply the generator, do the gas work, do the commissioning and starting of that generator, and then now you have just got yourself a generator customer through your local electrician. So that is another way, is get some relationships and make sure that those electricians, if they are true business smart guys, they don't see you as competition. They see you as helping out their business as well. So we had several local electricians that we would assist and support them in their generator installations, and it worked out extremely well as far as that goes. Let's talk about quality control. quality control needs to be managed. Quality control has to do with maintenance, service, and new installations especially. If you're an operations manager or if you're the lead installer, you need to make sure that that installation is done correctly. And what do I mean by that? Things have got to be plumb and straight. Connections have to be tight. The generator has got to be wiped down and clean. Around the yard, you can't leave materials laying around the yard all over the place. And when you do the commissioning and starting, and the functionality of that generator has to work properly, because that generator is going to be there for the next 15 to 20 years. You, as an installer or a business owner, want to make sure that every time that customer comes out and looks at that generator and shows his neighbors that generator, that, yep, that was installed by ABC Generators, your company. And you want to have a sense of pride that generator was installed correctly. It was level when you left. And everything just has to be nice. That's quality control. Quality control also has to do with follow-up with that customer. So there's all different levels of quality control, not just the physical installation of that generator, but also quality control with the customer. You as a business owner have to make sure you're quality controlling your employees. That makes sure when they're on site, they're not smoking in the backyard, they're not vaping anywhere, they're not using foul language, because when those installers are on site, or when your technician is there during service on a generator, that homeowner can hear everything that your tech is saying. Whether he's taking a phone call from you or another tech is calling him up, the customer can hear everything that's going on. So that's all part of quality control, to make sure that the installation is done right, the customer is happy with everything that you do. Quality also has to do with the parts that you purchase, the gas pipe that you buy, the fittings that you buy, the tools that you use, the vans that you use. Everything has to be top-notch quality. If you're a good quality control company, you will be in business for an extremely long time, and you will blow your competitors away as far as that goes. So those are just some of the things that I wanted to talk about. Call it operational excellence, call it some different things, but we talked about code compliance, we talked about inventory management, referral programs, and quality control. Those are all some of the things that you as a business owner need to talk about, and what we talk about here at the Standby Generator Podcast. Again, my name is Jim Swetman. Thank you very, very much for listening to this, and have a great day. Thank you for tuning in to the Standby Generator Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share. For more resources, tips, and to connect with other like-minded professionals, visit us at poweralliance.com or visit our social media pages. Until next time, keep powering up your business.